Today is April 15th, 2014, Tax Day, and you're listening to Episode 7 of Zero Fiat's Vertcoin Update. Well, it's about time you got here.
Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duty. Are you listening to me?
Oh, it's down there somewhere. Let me take another look.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Today, there is a lack of confidence in our financial system.
But we're not going to solve it with business as usual.
There is no try.
Current mining difficulty of Vertcoin is 249.3. The current price of Vertcoin is 2.28 with a market cap of $3,600,293. The current price of Bitcoin is 45.6 cents per millibit, making the US dollar price of Vertcoin $1.05.
Hello and welcome back to all of you subscribers on YouTube, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and illicitounderground.org. If this is your first time listening to the show, welcome to you as well. I hope you enjoy it. My name is Jay Steckervetz, also known as Zero Fiat, and this is my Vertcoin Update podcast. Wow. We've made it to episode 7, and I'm glad that all of you could be here. Last week, I took a drive up to Manhattan to attend Cryptocurrency Convention 2014. This was the first ever cryptocurrency convention, and I'm sure it won't be the last. Now, there have been Bitcoin conventions going on for a while now, but it was nice. What was really nice about this one was that the focus wasn't on Bitcoin, it was on altcoins, and Vertcoin had a booth there. I want to take a moment and just say thank you on behalf of Team Vertcoin to everyone in the community that donated to make Vertcoin's attendance possible. And on the reverse, I want to say thank you on behalf of the community to the developers of Vertcoin for all of your hard work and financial contributions you made to make this a reality. The booth looked great, and I'd say Vertcoin was the most popular spot for everyone to hang out. It was great meeting those of you that attended, including those of you from other coins. It's amazing to see how all these other communities that have grown up around various altcoins come together and make an even larger community. Many of us share the same ideals, and the more people I met, the more hands I shook, the more conversations I became engrossed in really showed how tight our little band of rebels really is. That being said, on this week's show, I'm going to share a personal experience I had with the Vertcoin Android wallet, and then the rest of the show is all Joe Fisher. Joe took the stage to represent Vertcoin at the convention this past week. It's a longer podcast than I've ever done before, but it's certainly not one to miss, so stay tuned.
This program is brought to you by illicitounderground.org.
On Saturday, I had a bit of a problem with my mobile phone, a Samsung Galaxy S3. There was an issue with the USB port, and unless I held the cord in just the right way, it wouldn't charge. I had previously bought Best Buy's protection plan when I got this phone, so I took it back to them and they replaced it. A cool thing happened. I had paid $400 for this phone, but it was currently on the shelf for $300. I also only had the phone for about 5 months. Best Buy refunded the difference in price to me in cash and gave me a gift card for the amount of coverage of that protection plan that I hadn't used, and that's pretty damn cool. Anyway, as we were getting the new S3 up and working, I encrypted and backed up my Vertcoin Android wallet, and I emailed myself the backup. I was still a little hesitant about the whole thing, so I used my old phone to transfer the bulk of my balance to my desktop wallet at home, leaving just a few test coins in there. Well, on the new phone, I downloaded the wallet again, grabbed my backup from my email, and hit restore. Now, I've had this wallet installed for a few weeks, so it was about 4 weeks behind when syncing, and the coin slowly started turning up as the blockchain was updated. Over my mobile network, the whole process took about 2 hours. I actually went home and transferred my balance back to from my desktop wallet to my phone, and those coins showed up even before the rest of the blockchain was synced. So it showed me an almost double balance for a while. However, they were grayed out, so there was no possibility of double spending them. Anyway, Friday my phone was fine. Saturday it definitely wasn't, and I had no idea this issue was going to come up. But I'm glad that when it did, I had a recent backup of my keys waiting for this situation. Let this be a lesson to all of you out there. Don't put off doing right now what might save you a lot of money in the future. If you don't, if that private key is lost, those coins are gone forever, so be careful. It's tax day here in the U.S., that time of year when everyone is scrambling around and getting all their last-minute documentation filled out and ready to mail. The IRS recently handed down some advice when dealing with digital currencies such as Vertcoin, and it has caused a little bit of confusion. I'm not a tax consultant, so don't take any of this as advice, but personally, if you're still racking your brain with how to list income from mining and the like, just do the best you can. Overstate it by a few dollars if you have to. It's probably better to pay a small percentage extra than to have the IRS clamoring all over your backside. Or file an extension. Start worrying about it tomorrow and consult a tax professional. Either way, good luck to everyone listening from the U.S. and happy tax day.
This program is brought to you by illicitunderground.org.
Joe Fisher joins us now. For those of you that don't know him, he took the stage at Cryptocurrency Convention 2014 in New York City this past week to represent Vertcoin. Joe, I hope you're doing well, and let's just start with it. How'd you get involved in Vertcoin?
My involvement with Vertcoin is actually really quite simple. I've actually been really busy the last several years, and I was actually on a much-needed vacation with my girlfriend of several years, and but even though I was on vacation, I still couldn't help but troll all the BTC talk forums constantly, all the time. And to make a long story short, I saw the original pre-announcement launch thread, and just something about it caught my attention. I don't know if it was the coin devs, very simplistic, humble introduction of the coin into the BTC talk. It was launched during a time that it was just a total, quagmire of just chaos and turmoil, as the alt crypto subform of BTC talk often is. And something I remember is that the phrase N factor and ASIC resistant, I thought that was interesting. I think that Vertcoin was one of at least, it was at least among one of the coins, so to speak, the first wave of coins to kind of start claiming this particular feature. And so I was, of course, interested. And I believe that the concept of script ASICs at the time was relatively, I think that it was mostly just rumor and smoke and mirrors. I think that a major player had yet to officially even show interest in developing them. But I remember thinking, hey, I believe in crypto. I know it's here to stay. I think that people are going to try to capitalize on every type, style, and flavor of currency with specialized hardware one way or the other. So I was intrigued by the launch. And so I was there. I think I started mining Vertcoin about 30 minutes into the official launch. I did it across 2 or 3 other mining rigs that I had at the time that were mining Litecoin. And we could only CPU mine because there was not even a GPU miner available yet. And so I mined a few hundred, but it wasn't a lot. But for a brand new coin, that's pretty rare. It wasn't bad. And then I was one of the first guys to download and start using the GPU miner, and I just kept mining it. I just mined it for the whole first 2, 3, 4 weeks. That's the only thing that I did. And it seemed like the community was growing, and it looked pretty optimistic. It was still very hard to mine, as it always has been, because I think it's really quite rare. And so then it got listed on CoinUp, and I bought a whole bunch of them on CoinUp. And I was one of the first people that actually was waiting to purchase them on CoinUp. And I bought a lot of them to my meager budget, but it just so happens that many people, including myself, saw an opportunity. And apparently a lot of guys were just interested in cashing out anything they had been mining right off the bat that had just freshly launched. So, there was quite a few Vertcoins available for prices that were never witnessed again. So suffice to say that I believed in it. I thought it was exciting. I mined it a long time, and I also purchased quite a few pretty early on. So by no means was I a whale or a major player, so to speak, but I had a few, and I thought there was a good prospect in it. And so I have a tendency to kind of obsess over things that I spend time on. And so I pretty quickly started trying to figure out how to get more insight on what was going on behind the scenes. And one day, for one reason or another, I think that I just was barking up all the different various trees enough, and somebody pulled me into kind of a communal Skype chat, which I believe has essentially become the Vertcoin official/unofficial steering committee. And so I basically brought nothing to the table, in my opinion, other than a lot of enthusiasm. And so I think that's pretty much where it all started. The cryptocurrency convention that was this last Wednesday, April 9th of 2014, it was actually announced quite a while ago, and I think it was announced only maybe 6 or 8 weeks after Vertcoin was even officially launched. I think. I could be wrong on the timing here. And so I immediately volunteered to do it if no one else would, just because I live relatively close to the city, only a 4.5-hour drive. And so I volunteered to do it, but I didn't actually necessarily think it was really going to happen. I didn't know if the community could raise the money. Vertcoin has no pre-mine, as I think as anyone listening to this will know, which means that the only way anything gets purchased ever is if people voluntarily donate to make it happen. And the community already appeared to be fairly wide, very diverse, and also very generous. And so I knew it wasn't beyond the community to raise $1,000 of US dollars necessary to actually get us there and get us at the convention. But I was definitely taken aback when it seemed as if raising the capital was actually almost, I wouldn't say it was trivial, but it seemed as if it came real easy. And so I volunteered to kind of help get a booth together and then get it there. And so it wound up being a pretty diverse and diffuse notion up until the last couple of weeks, where we finalized artwork. We finalized quite a few things to try to help get me the stuff I needed, but it still boiled down to me and my girlfriend, who's also interested in crypto, who also backed us up at the show, like cutting crappy, Vertcoin business cards out of card stock at Kinko's, and last second, the day before, that kind of thing. But yeah, I loaded the car up. I stuffed the car to the gills, and I drove everything down to the city. And I wound up meeting several other people from this Skype chat there, the quote-unquote dev team. And sure enough, I think that we actually hit it really well. In fact, I think we had by far the strongest showing of anyone that was there presenting anything. And I was really taken aback, almost immediately once I realized that while not being a huge convention, just due to the fact that there were already 2 other conventions about crypto already that week, and I guess people had already flown out, were burned out and sleeping all day from staying up all night from the previous conventions. It was still pretty obvious to me that the cryptocurrency convention at the Scholastic Auditorium that we attended, it was pretty apparent to me that several hundreds of people wound up shuffling throughout the day to see the speakers and to see the booths. And the Vertcoin booth, despite having at 1.6 people technically, fairly officially staffing it, we were slammed for a good portion of the entire time. There was barely enough time to get some food or find a restroom break. I think that the overall opinion of the crowd was actually highly supportive. There were a few people that came in and they immediately wanted to attack the N factor, or they immediately wanted to attack the efficacy of trying to be, I don't want to say just ASIC, but specialized hardware resistant. But it seemed as if we had held our own quite well, and we had presumably we had some interesting allies kind of come out of the woodwork and profess a bunch of support. So it was really interesting.
I just want to touch on the you mentioned earlier about how the funding for this came together, and I remember seeing it pop up on Vertcoin Market, and I swear I threw 4 in while it was at like 5 Vertcoin, and like a day or two later I checked back and I think it was completely funded. It was really amazing to see how fast that actually happened. And is that your general opinion from what you've seen with other things like this, that the Vertcoin community really gets behind?
I think the Vertcoin community has actually surprised me, and it has exceeded my expectation at pretty much every turn. And now that's not to say that I don't take people's motivation and excitement for the coin that they express on Reddit or that they express at BTC Talk for face value. It's just that in crypto, it's becoming such a large and wide beast of an entire industry and economy. It's actually really hard to sometimes envision all this enthusiasm as ever taking shape in some kind of a tangible, physical way. And so, I think that it always surprises me anytime that I see crypto doing something, quote unquote, in the real world outside of the discussion forums. And so it definitely, the whole thing definitely took on a bit more of a visceral edge once I started seeing, VTC that was donated through the market start turning into banners and start turning into cards and that kind of thing. But I think the community recognizes what the mission of the coin is, and I think the community recognized very early on that the development team in particular has been very, very responsive in the past. The coin forked once fairly early on, and it was almost a painless process. It happened very, very smoothly. And I think that not only the coin forking to make some improvements and change some of the schematics for a better optimization and stability, I think that gained a lot of credit. And then I think that the fast response from the dev team towards the community, towards their concerns, and towards potential vulnerabilities that are kind of crypto-wide, I think that also built a lot of credit. And I think that trust is the key to everything. And I think that Vertcoin has established itself as a trustworthy entity or a trustworthy actor to the people that are excited about it. And I think that's caused people to basically have no boundaries on what they're going to do to try to back it up, such as like $3,800 being raised in 2 or 3 days on the market for the booth, and then a lesser but also extremely large amount being raised privately by people who didn't even care to throw it at the market. They just said, "Hey, give me an address and I'll throw some Vertcoin at getting us there." And so, yeah, I think the community is, in my opinion, just a total class act, and I think that there's going to be a lot of interesting things that happen on that market that's going to portray the community in a really positive light.
Well, and like you said, the devs, I see questions come up on Reddit or issues being dropped in on the different forums, and while the devs don't always take time to reply individually to some of them because they may have already
how could they?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many that pop up from a day-to-day basis, and a lot of them were covered under other blanket topics as well. But, I know for a fact that those issues are still talked about, even if they're not necessarily replied to. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to know that, the developers take such such an interest in caring about what the community's doing.
I personally have no idea how they keep up with it. I'm not a coder, but I understand the fundamentals of what's going on. I love to offer my input and feedback. I love taking kind of a more PR/outreach approach to helping back up those guys with what they do. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I wake up and there's 3 or 4 guys online arguing about some optimization. I go to work. At work, they're arguing about some kind of optimization. I come home, I make dinner, I check Skype. The same 3 guys are arguing about the same optimization, and then I go to sleep and I wake up and it's the same thing. And so I wonder what their budget for energy drinks is, or
do they ever sleep?
Now that I'm no stranger to crypto in general, and I've seen a lot of coins come and go, I think that without even being a programmer, I think I have a extremely vivid awareness of exactly how much work it goes into maintaining these things. And yes, in theory, you can launch a coin, and as long as the code was solid and you got some nodes up, the coin will just operate on its own. But that's really 1%. That's really only 1%, in my opinion, of actually having a successful cryptocurrency. And it looks like a aggressive approach from developers and an aggressive approach from people who like what the developers are doing are actually the only thing that really matters. So yeah, so my hats are off to those guys all the time. I've actually considered trying to learn some kind of weird programming language only to back them up, but I assure everyone that would just be a horrible mistake, and they would be fixing everything I touched.
Yeah, the last time I personally programmed, I think, was in Pascal or Turbo Pascal. I know.
Yeah.
That's just a game that I am so far removed from, I won't even try.
I think that I mentioned the phrase Lotus Notes because that's what I programmed in last. And I think that just the term was met with a varying cacophony of abject horror and humor. And I took that as an indication that I probably shouldn't throw my hat in that arena.
Wasn't that on OS2 Warp?
Yes, it was an OS2 Warp, and also it was a Windows application for the Lotus suite that was a competitor of Microsoft back in the mid-90s.
1, 2, 3, right?
Awesome. Yep.
Yeah, I actually had a lot of database programming experience, not just with that, but also with PFS First Choice, which I'm still fluent in, and I really wish a copy would run on something I had. But getting back to the topic at hand, you were mentioning earlier that it was neat to see how many allies were coming out even from other cryptos. Who else did you talk to there?
Absolutely. It's funny. I think that it was such a crazy event, and I was, 1, scared as hell, and 2, I was completely overwhelmed by how many people were asking us questions. So I do remember that one of the guys from, actually 2 of the guys that were part of the Vertcoin team came up and said, "Hey, love you guys. Everything's great. I'm glad to see you here. I know that the Digibyte guys that were next to us, they were supportive, and they seemed to like to talk to me about some of the shared woes that they face from the community." I think that all the coins that were there, I think that the common thread that you could break the ice with in talking to any other person representing any other coin was, yeah, BTC talk, tough crowd, huh? And everyone would say, yep, and then you could instantly segue that into talking about anything you wanted to. I believe that I didn't have a chance to talk to him a whole lot. Bryce Weiner seemingly a pretty well-known celebrity. He approached me and we chit-chatted for just a minute, and I'm not really necessarily aware of his history or his enthusiasm or distaste for Vertcoin. However, I did catch a tail end of his presentation in which he admitted to the entire packed auditorium that he spent months slamming and quote unquote shitting on Vertcoin, yet he loves that he loves any community that stands behind what it would do, and then prodded the crowd to guess just how much Vertcoin he likely had, and the general consensus was a lot. So I thought that was interesting. And another interesting little tidbit was, I received a pretty gratuitous New York City-style parking ticket for parking my car and unloading everything into the auditorium. But while I was outside, actually to try to sweet talk the ticket police, somebody who presumably had just left a shift at a restaurant somewhere nearby, he came up to me and touched my shoulder, and he saw my shirt, I guess, I was coming out, and he said, "You're with Vertcoin, right?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm one of the volunteers at the booth." And he goes, "Oh man, I really wanted to go to the show, but one, I couldn't afford it, and two, I couldn't get anyone to cover my shift down the street." And I said, "Oh man, and I just told him for just a minute or two about the show, real quickly. He said he was going to miss his train, but yeah, he basically said, it's nice to meet a fellow Verton, and gave me a high five and took off running down the street. And then it kind of occurred to me, wow, he was literally a dude off the street who was walking by who was aware there was a convention, and that was also kind of a little bit of an eye opener. So it seems as if even if there are people who are not convinced that Vertcoin's approach is solid, and or people that have some interest in some other coin and just don't have that much appeal for what Vertcoin's trying to stand for, it seems as if regardless of someone's angle, everyone is, I would say, a mixture of surprised and also excited that the tenacity of the Vertcoin community to basically continue asserting itself. And so yeah, so I think we have a lot of interesting people that are either supporters from the comfort of their own couch, or are doing it on the markets by buying it and holding it. So I think that there's a lot more people out there in the Vertcoin court and on the bleachers, than I think most people might be aware of.
Yeah, I actually saw the picture of you and Bruce being tweeted.
Yeah.
And, it's just weird. I don't know was that before or after I was there?
That was way before. That was
okay.
When we were actually trying to get our name tags. And,
that's back when I was stuck in traffic on 78 for.
When you were stuck in traffic, yeah. I didn't know who he was. I've heard his name before, but I didn't know who he was until after he tweeted the photo. But yeah, he heard me saying over and over again, "Vertcoin, Vertcoin," to the people trying to print out the tickets. Then he immediately took a instant selfie for his Twitter fans.
Months ago, he was just unrelentingly bashing Vertcoin, and that's actually one of the things that really made me want to go to Vertcoin was just how much he was bashing it. I'm like, if he's bashing it this much, perhaps it's actually onto something, because yeah. But he's not a huge fan of altcoins in the first place, although I believe he has his own now as well.
It sounded like he has several, and he confessed on stage publicly to owning a fairly vastly complicated mining operation and having what he considered to be stakes in over 300 coins. So I don't think he has a whole lot of room. I don't think he's going to get a whole lot of sympathy from the altcoin crowd.
Yeah, I know some of the other people that I had happened to meet there. Digital Coin was there. They were really, those guys were really great, really supportive, and that was actually the first digital currency that I ever mined was digital coin. So, it was kind of a little walk down memory lane for me.
I bet. I was surprised that Xcoin or Ninecoin, whatever it is, I never know which one it is. Yeah, I mined that back in the day. That was one of the first altcoins I'd ever even heard of. It was a early fork of Bitcoin, and it seemed like a joke. There was no development. No one took it seriously. It wasn't until the altcoin boom happened that I think whoever wrote it or whoever volunteered to pick it up started working on it again. And I only wished I remembered where I stored all the ones that I mined back in the day, because yeah, it's funny when you see these old names, because I think that one month in crypto is 5 years in every other context. So
totally. Yeah, I remember when I was first when I first started mining, it was a father-son project, building a rig and getting it up and running. And I said to my son, I said, Asher, what coin are we going to go for? And he's going down through this list on Cryptsy and digital coin. He said, that one sounds cool. And so we mined it because it sounded cool.
Yep, that's it. Absolutely.
Definitely a lot of different names out there. And you're right. A month in crypto is like 5 years in the real world. So, I took a look around the booth and I thought it looked great. The mining setup was really cool. What'd you have there?
It was. I thought we were walking into this thing pretty Spartan, with not nearly the showy presentation that I was hoping. But once I saw everything set up, I was actually really quite pleased. We brought in a couple folding tables. I brought a couple of donated open rigs, open frame computer chassis, mining chassis, which they had actually graciously donated to the booth specifically, obviously to promote themselves, but also because I had been ranting for a while about having a brief mining demonstration at the convention. And so what we had was we had a few pop-up banners with some fairly generalized descriptions of what Vertcoin is, with some pretty pictures. We had a table. We had a demonstration rig, actually mining Vertcoin at the conference in Windows, with both an AMD and an NVIDIA GPU inside the same machine, which I've actually never seen before. So I was really happy that we were able to get that running.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool to see CUDA Miner and SG Miner, running side by side.
They were running side by side. They seem to be playing nice. And I'll tell you what, I've been a major proponent of trying to push and advertise how friendly the Vertcoin script and algorithm is on NVIDIA GPUs with CUDA Miner. And even before NVIDIA launched their newest chip, and the 750 Ti that's been getting a lot of positive press lately, AMD GPUs generally running VertMiner for script-in are hashing at roughly 48 to 55% of their standard script speeds. Well, NVIDIA cards had always been mining at 57 to 66% of their original script rated speeds, which while granted, the NVIDIA cards would still be producing less hash for the PCI slot. However, at a time when AMD cards are selling at 40% higher than MSRP, the NVIDIA cards on hash per, the NVIDIA GPU's hash per dollar has actually always been almost equivalent with Vertcoin. And I've always thought that was one of the hugely underrepresented aspects of Vertcoin's kind of, fair access and fair distribution model, was that you don't even have to have an AMD GPU to have a leg in this thing that's not even at a financial disadvantage to somebody with an AMD GPU.
Have you seen the buddy of mine sent me a text yesterday about the 880, the GTX 880?
No, I haven't. I didn't see it. What was it?
Well, the specs are out. At least they were leaked. And I didn't look at them personally, but I was having him text me back and forth the details as he took them, and he figured out the calculation, and he said it's running about 30 to 40% more efficient power-wise, and about 20 to 30% faster than a R9 290X.
Whoa! So what it sounds like then is that to get the performance up that vastly higher than the 750 Ti that they launched as kind of a mid-level card, it sounds as if some of the raw power efficiency is going to go out the window, but you're still looking at a massive power savings while also hashing faster. So yeah, I obviously AMD has been witnessing every container load of AMD GPUs just vanishing at or above MSRP for 2 or 3 years now. So I think they wanted in on the game, despite the fact they obviously are not making that knowledge public.
Yeah, well, the one I did ask him what the price was going to be, and he shot back $5.99 is what he thinks it's going to sell for. So,
Yeah.
you know, but when I was looking at 290Xs, I remember seeing them selling for $1,200, $1,300.
Yes. Yeah.
You know.
I saw 280Xs for like $649 or something back at the peak, and now they're starting to fall back to $300.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I got mine for I got my 270Xs for buck and change. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, even those shot up, just skyrocketed.
You know, this is the really interesting aspect of the discussion, and I think that some interesting tidbits. You know, moving forward, you know, all of us know that crypto's the future, one way or the other, and all of us know that there's going to be substantial rise, and you know, there's going to be substantial ups and downs in the market, especially so long as people continue to value crypto against fiat of any one particular country. And so currently we're in a bit of a lull. Still, granted, this insane trajectory higher than you know, even 12 months ago. If you look at total market cap, total supporters, total wallets across all crypto, so it's continuing to grow in this incredible pace. But you know, it's getting since the USD value of Bitcoin has been dropping somewhat. It's been dropping some of the quote-unquote profitability of the alt currencies, and so power savings and power consumption of the proof-of-work coins, such as Vertcoin, is starting to become more and more of a factor in people's minds. And so an interesting tidbit is that I've learned that specifically 280Xs, 270Xs, et cetera, you can voluntarily run them a little slower than what they can run when they're fully optimized, and you can undervolt them, and you can't quite get to the level of the 750 TI on hash per watt, but you can cut that margin way down. And so moving into summer here in North America and moving into a potentially a tighter USD to crypto market, through the spring and summer, although I think things are going to go, gonzo here in the very near future. But even if they didn't, there's no reason to quit mining your Vertcoins, because all you have to do is turn your hash down 15%, undervolt, and you're going to easily be able to handle that extra 5 degrees in your house.
Yeah, I noticed this winter it was kind of a blessing in disguise.
It really was.
Even with just 4 cards running, my office was just baking. I had to have windows open at certain times, and but so you think that Bitcoin has definitely been taking a massive hit. I think it's down almost 60% in 2 months.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that we're going to start seeing an upswing in Bitcoin? How do you think altcoins are going to fare with that? And more importantly, how do you think Vertcoin's going to fare with that?
It's a really interesting question, and I saw a chart. I really encourage everyone that listens to this to go find it. I saw a chart that somebody published once Bitcoin hit, I think, 450, like a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, and they just it was some forum on BTC Talk, and there was 100 pages of just people arguing, and everyone basically screaming and proclaiming that the sky was falling, and it was literally a madhouse. And somebody, to silence the entire thread, just posted this one picture. It was a graph. It was just a simple graph. I think it was Bitcoin from something like January 1st, 2011 until now. And it just drew this arc of its value increase, including the 60% drop. And I believe that the trajectory of Bitcoin's increase, even factoring in this recent 60% drop, was something along the edge of a 50-degree angle upwards, a 50-degree linear angle upwards. And so basically, even if the price drops to 100 tomorrow, you are still, or even $90 tomorrow, you're still looking at hypothetically speaking, the best return in investment history of all time. I think some insane ratio of like 27% per year annual rate of return if you were an early believer in Bitcoin and were buying them at the January 2011 price. And so so that alone causes me to not give a shit about the price now. I really don't give a rat's ass about what the Bitcoin price is right now, because I think that anything north of $50 is amazing and somewhat unexpected, even the ecosystem circa 1 year ago. So I think that all the negative news that I still not even aware if it's true or if it's false, some of it coming from the Chinese government. There's a lot of fear about New York State passing something that's going to make things difficult, et cetera, et cetera. But all things considered, I think that while I'm not super worried about the price going down or up in the immediate future, I do think it's actually going to begin gaining a lot of traction again, specifically because the federal government, the IRS, I should say, has declared Bitcoin as property. This has caused a massive amount of backlash among people who are miners and enthusiasts. But I thought it through, and maybe I'm missing some important details of this, but I guess I was always under the impression that you're going to have to pay some kind of capital gains on your investment, hypothetically, one way or the other. So I wasn't worried about that, and I understand that there's a lot of difficulty in calculating your gains or loss in Bitcoin when you're mining it and trying to utilize it as a currency. But I think that the IRS declaring it property has opened up a lot of interesting and exciting doors. Even though everyone's angry that it's being considered property, not currency, the fact remains that there's now beginning to be a well-paved pathway towards legitimacy and towards being able to be more widely adopted as an investment or a hedge or whatever it is that someone wants to do. And if it isn't a currency, then you're trading property for property, which means it's barter. And so there's a whole new potential world here beginning to open up right in front of us right now, where if Bitcoin is property, then this is the first time the world has seen property that's so easily bartered for other property. And there could be an entire new ecosystem arising that exists as, a multi-billion-dollar profitable model that only exists to facilitate bartered trades for your Bitcoin or your Vertcoin for Amazon or Amazon products or anything else that you want to buy. So I think that any ruling is a good ruling, and I think that we're going to start seeing potentially some large players that Bitcoin and also crypto has never even seen. And to answer your question about what the future of Vertcoin might be, I think that Vertcoin has done a great job of really gaining. I would be very surprised if any hardware manufacturer did not take Vertcoin on its word at this point in time, that its whole mission is to keep out specialized hardware that creates a barrier of entry, both fiscally and of skill, or some kind of a talent in participating in the production of Vertcoin as a cryptocurrency. And so we already know the Titan's coming from KNC. The grid seeds are just going to keep getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. We all know those grid seed chips cost $1, and its market price is $150 to $175 right now. We all know that as they scale up, they're going to be able to make those things for pennies on the dollar. And so when it comes to Litecoin making the decision not to fork or change their algorithm because they're already so deep with the community and with the services that they've been developing, then I think that the same flood of GPU miners from Bitcoin to Litecoin, I think that Vertcoin is it's just the natural progression. And I don't think anything's forever. I wouldn't say that it's guaranteed, but I just simply don't see the miners flowing downhill in any other direction than directly into a coin that already has an established history of basically only having their best interests in mind, and having proved it on more than a few occasions now. So I think that all these GPUs and all this investment that people have made and all this passion for crypto and passion for the decentralized and for the DIY hobbyist / casual miner, I don't see this going away. I think this is what made Bitcoin. I think this is what established Litecoin and then subsequently established the possibility of major market cap altcoins. And I think Vertcoin is going to see the vast majority or all of that traffic. And so I think Vertcoin's future is certain. And I'm definitely putting my money where my mouth is and continuing to mine it and try to acquire it through any means that I can. But yeah, so I think Vertcoin's got a strong future, and I think that Vertcoin, along with a lot of other altcoins, are all rapidly trying to figure out how to decouple themselves from Bitcoin as their only primary valuation. And there's already some really interesting things that I think people are working on to help make that happen. And so I think we're at the very beginning. I think we're at the cusp of Bitcoin continuing to enjoy its Bitcoin's first mover success. But I think the world of alternative crypto, or just crypto in general, is a lot broader than even the myriad of altcoins we see now, including all the funky and wacky utility that's being built. So, I think that alternative cryptocurrency as a technology is going to have as much broad and future implication this day forward as internet information technology had in 1992. Who knows what's going to happen exactly, but I'm hedging my bets on Vertcoin, and I'm hedging my bets on nothing but some of the sunniest skies anyone has ever forecasted or not forecasted for this entire industry in the next 6, 8, 12, and 48 months.
Yeah, I'm feeling myself pretty much in the same boat as you are. I really believe in Vertcoin. Obviously, if I didn't, I wouldn't be doing a podcast every week and trying to at least spread the information and to give updates to the community. But you do have to admit that, hey, when it rains, it does kind of pour. I don't know if you caught the news today out of Australia, saying that the National Bank is going to be pulling away from Bitcoin businesses. But I think a lot of these things are just, sort of minor hits. Going back to what you were saying with the IRS finally making a ruling, I've heard people complaining about it. I've heard people praising it. It all depends really on what your model of investment or use is. But I think the most important thing that some people haven't realized is now a final, or not a final decision, but a base decision has been made, and that opens the discussion to changing that decision.
Yeah.
Without having, if they would have just come out and said it's illegal and we're not going to allow it in the United States, that would have been the worst case scenario. Instead, they said it's property, and that opens the door for a lot more debate as to whether or not to convert it into a currency, which I've heard that there are some in Congress and Senate that are already talking about doing that. So
I definitely am not. I don't possess the time to try to keep up on everything as much as I can. But I think like yourself and like a lot of people listening to this, I of course want good news. I would love to hear this crypto utopian, world that I think we all believe in, just unfurling before us at light speed. But I think all of us knew that this is going to be a big pill to swallow by everybody. Like everybody that has any kind of stake in the existing system. And, I definitely believe that cryptocurrency in general is a disruptive technology, but disruptive to me does not mean destructive. I think that is two very different things. And when I think back in history of technology, but also just the history of humankind, disruption was often the precursor for some of the greatest achievements that humankind has ever made. And so I do think that a lot of trees are going to be shaken. I think that governments across the world are terrified by the possibility of all their constituents just basically quickly beginning to need them much less. And I think that, obviously the Federal Reserve banks, I mean, this is their job. Their job is to run these state-run currencies, and they're kind of obsolete now, in my opinion. And I know it sounds radical, but it's just this is how things go. This is the tide of progress. And
when you look at it, there really hasn't been a fiat currency that's lasted more than like 200, maybe 300 years. It's always been changed. It's always been replaced by incoming regimes, and the fact that the U.S. dollar has lasted as long as it has, it's not going to give up without a fight. But history just says that things change over a certain amount of time.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, not to get esoteric here per se, but it's I think people think that crypto is attacking the U.S. dollar. That's not what's happening. That doesn't even actually necessarily make sense in the context people are feeling it. People have an emotional reaction that is mostly negative, or the people that have a mostly negative reaction to hearing about Bitcoin or Vertcoin or alternative currency, it comes from a place of fear that, in my opinion, derives from the belief that their assets will become worthless if the dollar becomes worthless. But that's actually not what's happening at all. Your home and your property and the cabbage that you grow and your auto mechanic, shop that you do part time, that is wealth. That is true wealth. The things that you do, that you put your heart into and your passion into to provide for yourself, like that is actual wealth. The method that you transfer that wealth and share that wealth with other people is what we're changing. So Vertcoin is not going to make your 401k worthless. It's not going to destroy Coca-Cola or whatever. It's actually not what's going to happen at all. It's simply just going to redefine the way, and it's going to stabilize, in my opinion, the way that we basically transfer wealth among each other. And it's going to do it in a way that can bring the potential for virtually zero manipulation or abuse, and it's going to actually create a foundation that our children and our grandchildren can actually benefit from. If your great-great-grandfather had toiled 40 years of his life away working inside of a coal mine in West Virginia, and he saved $3,000, cash in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and he put that away in a safety deposit box, only to be given to a future to be given to his progeny down the line. That's worth nothing. And how and why is that? Is that right that his labors are not being valued now, just simply because of the way we've chosen to construct this monetary system that inflates and it debases and it can become devalued? And we have a Federal Reserve that can print money faster than you can write zeros behind a number. And that being the case, I think that's criminal. I think that the people should never have stood for that in the first place. And so with these digitally secured assets, such as Vertcoin, we're finally beginning to create something. That actually will at a minimum remain stable, or may even begin to ascend in value. So the working class and the middle class and the lower class, and just simply everyone that works and everyone that puts their heart into something in this world is now going to be capable of playing that sacrifice they made in their time forward. And I think that's it. I think that's a disruption. I think that's a disruption, against the way we've always done it. But I think it's a major leap forward.
Well, we naturally, as a society, our thoughts and opinions are going to change on that. And I really like the way that you put that when you stated that having U.S. dollars in your pocket is not the value. That's the method for exchanging value. That the real value is what you actually do. Be it garden, be it sell your cabbages, be it an auto mechanic, and it's a great way to actually look at who we are as individuals. It's not just these little pieces of paper that we carry around that make us important. that really it's what we offer society and what we offer, everyone around us. What we can offer them is what actually adds value to our lives.
Exactly.
Tell me, you yourself, you kind of live out there in the boonies of New York, right?
Yeah. I'm in upstate New York, pretty close to the Finger Lakes region. It's kind of a strange mixture of culture and resource and utility up here. I think the Finger Lakes region has always attracted in my opinion, a fairly academic and also fairly radical crowd. There's a lot of major universities nearby, and with these universities brings, progressive in the sense that they are new ideas, and so I think the world is changing, and I live in a little homestead off grid, and I make my own electricity, and I got a bunch of solar panels on the roof, and we've got a bunch of kale in the ground. It's the normal thing. But we also have good Wi-Fi, and, we're all engaged. We're entrepreneurs, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, there's probably more than a dozen off-grid homesteaders within five miles of me right now. It's not even necessarily a notable thing in this area that I live, and everyone takes their I don't want to say independence very seriously, but people around here, at least the ones that I know, they take a very proactive approach to trying to provide themselves with the things that they want, and to surround themselves with the culture that they want. And I think that me being, of this ilk just puts me in a very attractive position to see the potential of things like Vertcoin and some of these alternative cryptocurrencies. And so for me, it's just a natural, this whole industry of crypto is it's a natural progression. And I'm actually quite frankly surprised it didn't happen 10 or 15 years sooner. The technology existed. It just wasn't applied.
Right. Well, and we see a lot of this stuff with like the Free State Project as well. I don't know if you've ever been up to Pork Fest, but the currency of choice up there last year was all Bitcoin. And for the past couple of years, and it just really seems like we're getting a lot of people who want to make a change in just the way that they live. Has living off-grid actually been a challenge as far as mining goes and getting involved in crypto?
Well, fortunately, I don't do a whole lot of mining at home, obviously, but I've been able to figure out how to utilize mining, specifically waste heat from mining. I've actually figured out how to use that to supplant natural gas consumption where I work at my office. It's actually really pretty simple. For me, you can go and you can pay an extra few cents per kilowatt, and you can get some beautiful wind power, and then you can mine your cryptos, and then you can try to keep some of the lesser savory methods of energy production at bay. Production at bay, and so. Living off grid, I think, has honed a lot. I've been doing it for several years now, so it's definitely honed a lot of my perception about our culture and our society in general. And it's helped to buttress a lot of my beliefs and principles in stewardship, not just necessarily in an environmental sense, though I do care about that a lot, but specifically when it comes to our fellow people. And that is precisely where my, really, really intense feelings on these like fiscal matters come from. I see a lot of people putting a lot of energy into changing laws, into trying to lobby for pursuits that they deem worthy to move forward. And I feel very similar about crypto in general. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that it's all part of the same thing. Growing cabbage at home and trying to figure out how you can buy things at your local coffee shop with Bitcoin. To me, it's all basically the same. It's all the same activity. It's just you picking which flavor you want to back up.
Have you been able to get any of your fellow homesteaders up there to look into the cryptocurrency?
You know, I actually have. I've actually been able to get quite a few people that I know at least interested, and I'm going to be attempting to host one of my very first kind of crypto-centric potlucks in the next couple of weeks. I wanted to do it after the convention in New York City, but yeah, there's a lot of people that I know that just they know about it anecdotally, or they just know the principles. They know that there's this new thing that's getting a lot of press and that it seems interesting. And I personally feel very obligated to at least try to figure out how to inform people that I care about and friends or anyone that's interested. I kind of think that I have special knowledge that needs to be shared and broadcast. I actually think it's almost not ethically sound to not share everything that I know with everyone that I know, because I think that I think that the faster and the cleaner everyone begins to at least educate themselves about what crypto is, the better off they're going to be, and just the smoother the transition it's going to be that they will inevitably make one way or the other in the coming years.
Well, Joe, I want to thank you very much for everything you did with the convention. It was really nice meeting you in person, and I'm glad that you were able to come on, just give a little wrap-up of what actually happened. And I appreciate you taking your time to talk to the listeners out there a little bit about yourself and what's going on with Vertcoin. So thank you.
No problem. I really appreciate the opportunity. Be sure to have me back whenever you want.
I will do. That wraps up the interview, and it also brings the rest of the episode to a close. I thank Joe for a great interview. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. Be sure to tune in next week for something completely different. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please drop me a line at illicit@gmail.com. That's ILLICIT and the letter U. You can find the show at a variety of places like my website, illicitunderground.org, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and YouTube, but you can always help spread the word by downloading and sharing anywhere that I've missed. As always, this podcast is funded by your generous donations, so if you like this week's episode, you can find my tipping address in the show notes wherever you found the show. Again, thank you very much for listening, and a special thank you to those who have sent me your tips already. I really do appreciate it. And I promise that I won't be using your hard-earned Vertcoin to run for public office. Remember to take everything you hear on this podcast with a large grain of salt. I'm not giving investment advice, and it's always best to think for yourself. I look forward to our next installment, and until then, go out and buy some Vertcoin. Happy holding.
Well, it's about time you got here.
Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duty. Are you listening to me?
Oh, it's down there somewhere. Let me take another look.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Today, there is a lack of confidence in our financial system.
But we're not going to solve it with business as usual.
There is no try. There is no try.